I come from a family where I'm the only girl with 3 boys, and my parents played a very, very, very big role in raising us all equally. Ever since I was young, my parents really emphasized the fact that I was going to go to the same schools my brothers went to, I was going to be allowed to do the same things my brothers were allowed to. So my journey started very early on with a lot of support from my family and my parents. After I finished high school, it was a time where everybody was looking at what university to go to. A lot of my friends were going to the US, a lot of them were going to London. For me, I wanted to actually go to Sharjah. I'm from Sharjah originally, but I've grown up my whole life in Abu Dhabi. So I wanted to kind of reconnect back with my roots and reconnect back with my extended family, and really make sure that I was kind of getting into my whole culture and really being aware of my traditions. I had an amazing 4 years in AUS. I met the most incredible people. I decided that I wanted to do something in business. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I took a finance course one time and thought, you know what, I actually really do enjoy this. I was one of the only Emirati girls in my course, and it was difficult, honestly. It wasn't the easiest course to take. I ended up doing a double major in finance and economics, but it was still an incredible opportunity for me to be able to study at home and still get a really great education. After I graduated from AUS, I came back to Abu Dhabi, and that was when my real journey started. There were a few different options for me to do, and the one thing that I think differed me from a lot of other people at the time was all the offers I'd gotten, I wanted to do an internship with all of the companies. So I asked for a 1-week internship, 2-week internship, just so I can kind of really get the feel of each of the companies that I would potentially be working with, and ended up choosing Mosdar. Mosdar was the first company I started with. I started with them in 2008. It was a new company. It was being set up in Abu Dhabi. It was really focusing on the future economy of Abu Dhabi. It wanted Abu Dhabi to become, to maintain its energy leadership position in the world. I ended up joining their private equity team. And before I joined, I had no idea what private equity was. I didn't know what venture capital was. I didn't know the different types of financing. What I knew was what I learned from a book and what I was doing in my internships. I joined a very small team, and automatically my director pushed me into the deep end of the swimming pool, and I started frantically trying to swim. What I remembered at the time as well is that I looked at the company that I was in, and I found myself a mentor. I found myself an older Emirati woman who I would go to for advice and just say, you know what, this is what I'm going through right now. I'm coming to you because I feel like you are a lot more, are a lot more mature, you're a lot more established in your career. So if I'm working 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days and I really was feeling down, I would go to her quite a lot. Again, my family played a very, very, very big part in the support system that I had. My friends played a big part in the support system that I had. And obviously the leadership in Abu Dhabi and in Mosdar specifically were incredible to have. In year 4, that was when I decided that I was going to go do my MBA. And I remember telling people that, you know what, I'm starting my GMAT, I'm going to start applying. And they were like, oh, where are you going to apply to? So I started listing the top tier schools. And they all kind of looked at me and were like, you graduated from AUS, maybe you should look at safety schools, just to go do your MBA, maybe in a school that is not top 10. So I thought, you know what, if I'm going to be leaving the country, leaving my job, changing my whole life, it's only going to be for a top tier MBA school. And that's what I did. So I applied to the 5 top schools and started anxiously waiting for the responses, because I was so scared within myself that what if everybody was right? What if I didn't apply to a safety school and I wasn't going to get into any of these schools? Alhamdulillah, I did get into a few of those schools, and I ended up going with INSEAD. again, through my entire journey, I've always just followed my gut. I followed my gut. I followed the people that I felt I was most comfortable with, whether it was a job, whether it's friends, whether it's education. I've always followed my gut. So in INSEAD, I met an incredible group of people, and every time I speak to anybody who is potentially going to be going to business school, I always highly recommend INSEAD, but I also tell them to look at other schools where they feel like they are comfortable, where they feel like the people that they would be looking around at and working with embodies who they are as people. I graduated at INSEAD after the 10-month program between France and Singapore, and I came back to Abu Dhabi and thought, you know what, I want to go into the private sector. I spent 5 years in the government sector. Now let's give the strategy management field a shot. I applied to strategy management consulting firms and ended up going to Boston Consulting Group, which again was a whole different roller coaster that I was getting on. Working primarily on the public sector and then going into financial services, meeting the people that I met. It was basically a continuation of my education at INSEAD, because it was always just learning, but also surrounded by people that I was so comfortable with all the time. After I spent a little over a year and a half in Boston Consulting Group, that was when I thought, you know what, now it's probably time for me to go back to Abu Dhabi. To really try to figure out what it is I wanted to do. And again, throughout my whole journey, I was always cautious about being very adamant about one particular industry. I didn't want to tie myself too closely to it, because I wanted to make sure that I was exploring very different alleys. I wanted to make sure that I was giving myself the option of saying, I like this, but I don't like this. But when I say that I don't like a particular subject or a particular industry, I've at least given it a shot. So I went back into Abu Dhabi government sector, and now I'm with Mubadala. I'm working basically in asset management for their energy portfolio. And again, I followed my gut there with a great team that I work very closely with, and a lot of responsibilities. As a person, the person that I am, I always follow my gut. And I know that the minute I walk into a situation, whether it's a personal situation or a professional situation or an educational situation, I know right away if it's not right. You know, I don't know, I don't actually exactly know what it is or how to describe it, but I think it's just a womanly instinct that you know if you're not going to be happy. You know that if you're going to be working 24-hour days and you're not happy with what you're going to be doing, then you shouldn't do it. So I've always had a target that I kept resetting for myself, because once I go out of my comfort zone, I realize that you can achieve so much more. And I know that's quite cliche to say, but really, like, your life does start out of your comfort zone. So every time I would leave my comfort zone, I would make sure that my comfort zone is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but then I would continuously keep pushing myself further and further, which is why I keep setting quite ambitious goals, or some people would like to think that they're quite ambitious goals, but I take pride and I get very just happy, like from within, like a very, very deep founded happiness when I achieve them. And I, not only to prove people wrong, but just to prove myself right. For the future generation, I think it's extremely important to remember to follow your gut and to really design the cloth that you're cutting for yourself. So not to stay within norms that have been set for you, or norms that you feel have been set for you by society, by your family, or whoever, but just make sure that whatever you're doing, do it with a passion and do it because you love doing it. Because if it's not, you're wasting quite a lot of time and you're losing out on an incredible experience that you would be getting if you were doing something that you were very passionate about. The cloth should completely cover the whole world, honestly, but it's just how you see the world. This cloth, I mean, you should continuously try to work on it. So it's kind of like stitching on a piece of cloth, and you just keep going further and further and further away from where you began at the center or a corner, but you just keep building on it, because that's what life is all about at the end of the day. It's just building on your own experiences and accepting the fact that wherever you are at whatever point in time, that everything that happened before then has gotten you to where you are today, and appreciating that and making sure that you know where you're going next. I think women in this region are highly underrated. I think that everybody has a very strong passion, has a strong flame within them. I feel it from the women I speak to, from my family, from the office, from social gatherings. And you just feel that within themselves, their grandmothers and their mothers and their, daughters today, that everybody is just building up on this beautiful, beautiful passion that is building the GCC and the region and the world today, working towards making the region a much more sustainable place to live for us and for our families and for future generations. So I'm not worried at all about women in this region. I think, everybody should be worried about how underestimated we've been. I strongly believe we can do it. نحن قادرات. Together we can definitely do it.